I'm taking the team total. I'm taking first quarter, first half, full game, taking it all. OU all the way. I lost so much money on OU.
Our rat's ass about
Whoa, he has trouble with the spin, and the ball is free.
Cast starts all crazy. And they run through our ass like shit through a tin horn, man.
That is a disgusting act by Randy Moss.
What is up, and welcome to not another CFB pod. This is the Week 10 college football, Week 9 NFL preview and pick show. Me and Beast were talking off camera. We're pumped to go. This is a great slate. We've got some great picks lined up for you as well. We're obviously going to preview the slate and then get into our picks. No guests today. It's just me and Beast. How we feeling, bud?
We're feeling great. I feel like every week I get on here and I'm like, oh man, this is going to be such a great weekend of football, but it really is. And we keep saying that we're in that point in the season where we're getting a ton of top 25 matchups. You know, this week, couple top 10s, you know, so it's going to be a lot of fun as far as college goes, but NFL, same thing, man. Once again, a lot of big games. So it'll be good, man.
So many games that influence the standings at this part of the year. You know, this is the clutch time. This is when PG and Beast hook you up with a couple winners here. We're feeling great. Our week's going great. If you haven't been following Coda Capper Beast on Twitter, his Beast prop's been hitting at a great clip. Now, if I tail the Beast prop, it doesn't hit. But if I don't, it hits. So I just have started staying away, letting this man get his winners. He's obviously a great follow on Twitter too. So you got to follow my man. How you been feeling? I just want to get into this before we talk about football. How's the Beast prop been going? Because it seems like it's going really good.
Oh, we've been doing good. We were, I want to say we had won 3 or 4 in a row, and then we had a loss yesterday, which kind of was disappointing.
I was on that one, and that's why the streak got broken. So I got off.
We came back tonight, and we had Aaron Gordon over 13.5 points. He cashed it in the first quarter. Like, it was just, he was going off. He hit back-to-back threes at one point. Next thing I know, I'm looking up, and he's got like 10 points. And then this was in like 7 or 8 minutes of play. I'm like, holy shit, dude. And then he cashed it in the first quarter. So, like, it's not always that easy, but when it is, man, it's fun. So that was a good winner. So hopefully we can get a nice streak going, man.
You got to love it. And last year when you really got hot like that, that seems like that's how the Beast prop was going. Some nights it just cashed right away. Like you had no drama. Like it was just easy. So we like to see those easy winners roll in. I've been pretty solid with those easy winners too. And football's been going great for us. We haven't even talked about football yet. We got to get into it. Let's talk about the CFB slate this weekend. I'm kind of going to go Friday going forward since we've got the App State, Coastal Carolina, and UTEP Rice games going on right now. Midweek Maction already went down. That was a lot of fun. Seemed like games Tuesday were better than the games Wednesday, but that happens.
Yeah. We're
going to talk about this Friday, Saturday slate. Is there anywhere you want to start, Beast? Because otherwise, we got to talk UMass at UConn, dude.
Yeah, we can start with that because there's some good Friday games. That's a good one to start with.
Yeah, we've got the University of Massachusetts going to the University of UConn. This is a battle for New England. Crazy thing is, it's a 15.5-point spread. Minutemen and Huskies. Where's our heart at right now? Where are we leaning right now?
I feel like everybody's going to say, oh, you know, UMass is 1-7, but you're right. This game's going to matter a lot more to them. UConn, while they're 4-5, I feel like at times they've played a little bit above like how good they actually are. And it's weird seeing them actually win games. So
yeah, I
think UMass might come into this game, keep it close, but a 15.5-point spread is, you know, that's ridiculous. And that says a lot about how bad UMass has been this year. But I think they could keep it close, man. I got faith in those guys.
I like it. Jim Mora, 7-2 against the spread, I believe. So he's like second to Nick Saban this year, I want to say. Absolutely electric. That's as long as you'll ever hear a podcast talk about UMass UConn. Let's get on to some real games. We've got Oregon State at Washington. I'm calling this a cold one classic going down Friday night at 9:30 p.m. Central. I've got to play on this, Beast. But, you know, we've been a Pac-12 podcast. Do we have any thoughts on this cold one classic before we get our Saturday started?
It's going to be a really fun game. It's going to be the best game that we have on Friday for sure.
Right.
You guys are going to get the nice little appetizer of UMass UConn. A total of 40 points in that game is what it's set at right now, which is just disgusting. And then you guys can, you know, come back for the late game where we, you know, have a little bit of a higher total. I think it's 55 right now is what I'm looking at. And Washington, Oregon State, like they've played pretty good at times this year. We said we really liked Washington early. Oregon State's been playing really good down the stretch. It's going to be a fun Pac-12 game. I'm excited to hear what PG has to say about that game. So that'll be a fun one on Friday.
Yeah, you know what's funny too? I want to bring this up before we move on. It's funny how Midwestern people say Oregon because y'all say Oregon, right?
Yeah. Sometimes I'll say Oregon, like I'll slide the in there, but a lot of times it's Oregon. Yeah.
Oregon is interesting. It's just funny because like I've heard that a lot, but I don't even think people from Oregon say it like that. That's what makes it so great. I absolutely love the Midwest. I'll be making my return at some point. We got to see those beautiful Casey's and me and you are going to crack a Busch Light together. Absolutely.
Yes,
I do need to mention on Friday night before we move on, because our guy Squilly would be sad if we didn't mention Duke at Boston College. ACC showdown, absolutely elite teams there going down Friday night. Don't have any thoughts. Just got to mention it for our guy Squilly. Let's move on to Saturday. Let's move on to greener pastures. And I guess I'll just start in this 11 a.m. slot. Our number 2 team now in the country, Ohio State, taking on Northwestern. Nothing too crazy there. I did want to mention we have a 10:30 game going down to Air Force and Army, but I've got to play on that. So just stay ready. Do you have any thoughts, Beast? Because you're kind of our Big Ten guy on Ohio State Northwestern.
You'd expect it to be, just an absolute blowout, but Northwestern's gonna be
a 38-point spread, I think.
Yeah, like you'd expect that, like it makes sense, and you'd expect that Ohio State, whatever their team total is, it's gonna be ridiculous. I want to say it was like 45 because I took a look at it, like maybe I'll take it, but that's just so much points.
Yeah,
that's a game I stay away from, but like I could for sure see somebody taking 38.5, and like there's valid reason to do it because they're trying to light up Northwestern. They want to make their case. They know they're probably looking at the schedule. Everybody is, and they're saying like, hey, if we don't, blow out some teams here, like we're gonna fight to be into the top 4 if they lose to Michigan. Let's just say.
Yeah, so. I did want to say because of our CFP rankings, Ohio State got propped up in a good spot. Like they just need to kind of win right now. They're in a great spot. They got teams like Michigan on the schedule, so they got good things coming. Let's keep moving down the slate. This is a big 12 game, Texas Tech at TCU. I really wanted to make a play on this. Still might sprinkle the over for a half unit. I want to say it's like 69.5, which is just a nice total. A lot of points though, but both teams have been scoring. Texas Tech scares me a little bit because they kind of got shut down last week. TCU's kind of been our team with Max Duggan. Do we have any thoughts on our undefeated Horned Frogs?
I don't have a bet on it, but I'm looking at that spread at 8.5, and I'm looking at the percentages on it. So if anybody's thinking about betting this game, right now it's Texas Tech's getting 55% of the bets, but 90% of the money. So that's a massive difference. We're looking at 35% right there. That's a lot of sharp money coming in. So when you guys listen to this podcast, it'll be out Friday morning, but we're talking on Thursday. The sharps have been betting it all week during the middle of the week. So if I was to take anything on this, I would look at Texas Tech very, very close because that's a good sharp spot.
Yeah. Anytime you see the money that largely in one direction, shoots your antennas up. But hey, listeners to our podcast already know that.
Yeah.
We've been drilling that in their heads for a while. Check out those percentages. There's free sites out there. Beast and I both pay for Action App Pro, which we think is worth the money. So you might check it out. Not sponsored. Let's go. Let's keep moving. Yeah, we should be. We absolutely should be. I'll talk to my guys. We'll see what we can do. North Carolina at Virginia. Drake May, number 17. North Carolina going to Virginia. Don't really have thoughts on that. Just want to get some of these ranked games out there. We got Tulane, number 19, the Green Wave at Tulsa. Also going down in Oklahoma at 11. It's going to be a windy day. Interesting lines there. I didn't have a play, but it is a fun game there in the American Athletic Conference. Let's keep scrolling down, and we just got to give a shout out to Corey because Minnesota at Nebraska's this weekend. I know Minnesota's pretty big favorites in that one, but I've heard that a lot of sharps and big money like the Minnesota Golden Gophers this weekend, kind of more of a matchup game than anything. I guess looking at the schedule, the next game we need to talk about is OU at home taking on the Baylor Bears. I'm going to jump on this real quick. Probably not a lot of our listeners really want to hear this. But I'm going to go into it anyway. OU favored by 3.5, I think, in this one. About even money from what I've seen. OU's got a great chance, but it's going to be a good game. The unfortunate thing is that both these teams have a good number of losses, so this isn't a ranked versus ranked matchup like we thought this would be. In fact, this is on ESPN Plus at 2 p.m. I like OU's chances, though. I like the way the offense is playing, and I really think that Baylor's one of those teams, if you can get up 14, 17 points on them, they start to throw up those antennas like, oh, crap, we need to start scoring, and they kind of got to change their game plan up. So I think that's probably OU's goal, is just to start fast at home, keep the crowd in it. But I like OU's chances. Do you have any thoughts on that game?
Yeah, this game's going to say a lot about both teams because, like you said, both teams 5-3, kind of similar just in their seasons where they started off hot. We thought, oh, they're going to be good. But both teams, same thing. Last 2 weeks, Baylor's looked really good in their win against Kansas and Texas Tech, and then Oklahoma, their win against Kansas and Iowa State. So, like, both teams have really, I think, found some, extra boost in their, season. I don't know how else to word it, but really they have. They've gotten their offenses going. So it's going to say a lot about where these teams are headed,
Yeah, no doubt. Should be a fun one in the Big 12. I don't know how we've gone this long without talking about it. We mentioned it on the show that came out Tuesday morning, but we've got number 1 Tennessee at number 3 Georgia, number 2 if you look at the AP poll instead of the CFP poll, but number 1 versus number 3, kind of a game of the century. Listen, Georgia's favored by 8. They're at home. I think they've got a great chance. I do have a play on this one coming up. Beast, what are we thinking about this game?
It feels like, you just have to take the number 1 team. But it's not easy going to Athens. And Georgia historically has dominated this series recently. They've won the last 5, and it has not been close games. I mean, we're looking at 41-17, 44-21, 43-14, 38-12, 41-0. That's your last 5 matchups. Now, I'm not saying Tennessee, like, those are way different Tennessee teams than what we're used to, or that what we're seeing this year, I should say. But with that said, just Kirby Smart has been kind of dominating them since he got there. And it makes me nervous because it feels like plus 8.5, like, you just got to take the points. But,
line,
I had to stay away. It felt like, you just take the points because Tennessee's been so awesome this year and they look so good against Bama. But I was like, you know what? Maybe this is one where I just enjoy it. I don't have to sweat out a bet. Sometimes that's all I got to do,
Yeah, you can't lose money that way, so it's kind of nice. It's a great game coming up. I'll be talking about that in a little bit in our pick segment, so we'll keep moving. Oregon's at Colorado this week, number 8 Oregon. Colorado's, I think you called them the worst Power 5 team. They might literally be that, so we don't have to talk about that. Penn State at Indiana, looking to bounce back after that loss to Ohio State. Good luck, Indiana. That's the ABC game at 2:30, though. So, hey, everybody will be watching. Let's talk about number 16, Illinois at home versus your Penn State Spartans. I want to hear what Beast has to say on this game because I don't really have many thoughts, so maybe he can talk me into or talk me out of a bet here.
The weird thing about this game is if Michigan State hadn't gotten into all of their violence last week, which we don't have to touch on it too much, but if they wouldn't have had all that happen, I probably would have looked at this spread and said 17 points is a lot of points. Like, I think I would take the Spartans here. I don't know if I would have put a bet on it, but I would have probably leaned that way. But I don't know, man. The vibes are so down right now. Maybe MSU looks at it as like, we're going to just kind of roll with it's us versus everybody. Not necessarily saying they're happy about the violence, but just kind of saying everybody's going to doubt us. Everybody's down on us. We just got to stick together as a team. Maybe that's how they go into this game, but I don't think so. I feel like the vibes are down. Mel Tucker's embarrassed. They're putting out apologies. They're suspending. I think it's been 8 guys so far. Wow. I mean, it's not good. And if I had to guess, that's just not good vibes entering this week against Illinois. I wouldn't be shocked if Illinois just kind of ran away with it and MSU players just looked a little bit out of it. But hey, like I said, maybe they show up and they're like, we're just going to do our thing. It's us versus everybody. Who knows? But a big spread, if I'm being honest.
A lot of points there. And one other way to look at it, Beast, is that you're going to have a lot of young guys with opportunities here. This is a great look into Michigan State's program. Are these guys they're bringing in hungry to make plays, or are they just kind of happy to be on scholarship? We'll see. Big spread. I don't have a play on it either, so we don't have to talk about it really too much. Good luck, Spartans, though. That's all I got to say because we're a Spartan pod. All right, Oklahoma State at Kansas, number 18, Oklahoma State. I've got a play on this that I'm so excited about. I can't wait to get into that one. Don't have to have a lot of thoughts on it. Syracuse at Pittsburgh. Syracuse, the number 20 team in the country, going on the road. Can they kind of bounce back from that Clemson spot? Do we have any ideas on that game?
Very interesting spread. Pitt's favored by 3.5.
Right, against the ranked team.
Yeah, and when you look at these two teams, like Pitt's 4-4, Syracuse is 6-2, and like really Syracuse's only losses, was the Clemson game and then the Notre Dame game. And Notre Dame, like they're actually kind of playing some pretty damn good ball right now, if I'm being honest. So I don't really know where to put Syracuse, but it makes me question them as 3.5-point dogs. Vegas must know something. Like, what is going on with this line? It's very wonky.
Yeah.
I don't know. So keep an eye out on it, guys, because something's going on here.
Yeah. Your antenna should be up. Last game, we're going to talk about in that slot, is UCF and Memphis. UCF, the number 25 team in this week's polls. Looking great. That should be an awesome game. I honestly might just sprinkle the over just because it seems like when UCF and Memphis play, it's just crazy. Let's move on to the next time slot, though, because we got some really good ranked games in that 6 o'clock Central slot. Number 6, Alabama at number 10, LSU, Death Valley at night. That's going to be a freaking blast to watch. I know me and you covered this a little bit on the CFB Central show, but how are we feeling about that game?
I'm going to have a play on it. So we're going to have a play on one of the best games of the week, that's what matters, man. So I stayed away from Tennessee and Georgia, but we're going to have another top 10 matchup right here. So I'm excited about that one. I won't give away too much of who I'm going to bet on. Okay. That's going to be an elite matchup for sure.
Yeah, smart. This is kind of a pseudo rivalry as well. It's just one of those rivalries where both teams have been good for so long that they kind of hate each other because they're both good. But it'll be interesting to see Bama on the road, but off of a bye. So we'll hear what Beast has to say. We got number 24, Texas. For some reason, Texas got ranked this week in the CFP poll at number 13, Kansas State. Big one in the Big 12 for standings and things. Texas actually favored in this one by 2.5. Another one of those interesting spreads that Beast talks about.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at the percentages on it. 67% of bets on Texas, but 94% of the money.
Antenna's up.
Yeah, like once again, we're really diving into the percentages this week, which is good because sometimes we won't do that, even though like we know it behind the scenes. But that is the thing is like as good as Kansas State's been, Texas has still been playing some pretty damn good ball. I'm not really sure what the news is on Martinez if he's playing, but they were fine without him last week. So
they honestly looked a little bit better low key without him. I mean,
like what'll happen if they play him and he's injured? Like what's going to go on? Like would they just go right to the backup? I don't know, but it's a very, very interesting spread.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Texas is better than I'm giving them credit for if Vegas is going to say that they're that good. Because I've been a little bit down on Texas this year.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Of course, yeah.
There's well, I shouldn't be after what they did to OU, but there are some red flags about their defense. So we'll just see on that game. Interesting lines, why I wanted to bring it up. 6:30, we've got Clemson at Notre Dame. I would argue another interesting spread just because Clemson is now the number 4 team in the country. Can't believe they jumped Michigan, but they did somehow. They're only 4.5-point favorites here. I think that's still the line at Notre Dame. Notre Dame's been playing a better brand of football. You have any thoughts on that game?
I think it's down to 3.5 now on some books. So yeah, which is nuts just because
that's crazy.
When I saw Notre Dame play their first 4 games this season, I was like, damn, there's no chance they're going to stand in that not ACC, but against Clemson, and just they have kind of picked it up. I give them a ton of credit. They could have very much laid down and just said season over, and they didn't. They're playing really good right now, probably playing their best. And Clemson's going to have a tough test, man. This is actually a much harder game than we anticipated.
Yep.
And Clemson's been kind of just getting by, if I'm being honest. Their win over Florida State was by less than a touchdown. Their win over Syracuse, less than a touchdown. They could easily come out this week and get popped by Notre Dame, and lose, and suddenly they're out of the CFP rankings.
Yeah. I mean, one loss for them, and it seems like it might be over. Of course, at the same time, they put them at number 4.
Right.
So who knows? But losing to Notre Dame here would be pretty bad. I just think it's interesting that they ranked the team number 4 that has major question marks about their quarterback, which is kind of a big position in college football. We've got number 5 Michigan at Rutgers in that same time slot, 6:30 Central. Not much to say about that. It's kind of a warm-up game for Michigan, but will be interesting to see how they play off of a great win. Sometimes that can be a letdown spot. We've got our Utah Utes at home against the Arizona Wildcats. Shouldn't be too hard of a spot, but it's going to be a high-scoring game. Our guy Jaden Delore for Arizona. Do you have any thoughts on that game?
I'm really glad you mentioned that game because you're right. It's probably going to be one of the best point spots of the week.
It's a lot of points there.
If you're somebody that just likes betting on these high totals, this is one of the highest ones of the week. It's 67.5. Wouldn't be surprised if it climbed up closer to 70 by game time.
Yep.
Going to be an electric game. Cold one classic for sure when you think about just going to be back and forth. Utah's got a good defense, but Arizona, like, they've actually been scoring on pretty much everybody they play. So it should be a fun one. A lot of points. It's going to be good. So buckle up, man.
Yeah, buckle up is a great way to put it. And you, for some reason, you bringing up the point total reminded me, be sure to check the weather out for this weekend in different places. I know the Northeast is going to have some storms. It's going to be really windy across kind of the central part of the United States. So sometimes that can factor in if you're looking at an over and under. It's always one last thing to check before you press that bet button. In that time slot, we got a couple more that I want to mention. We've got a rivalry game, Florida State at Miami. Florida State, a little over touchdown favorites in that one. I like Florida State there. There's going to be a lot of FSU fans in the stadium. I'm just interested because it's like with Miami and Texas A&M, how far do they fall? What happens with their roster? Do a lot of guys transfer out? We don't really have to get into that game, but I just think it's interesting because it's a rivalry. We have to mention it. We've got a ranked matchup in the ACC we need to touch on. Wake Forest at NC State at 7 p.m. on ACC Network. Unfortunate. I have it. Some people don't. You got any thoughts on that one?
Going to be a good game. I think we've been saying for a minute that NC State probably hasn't played up to where we thought they were going to be all year. But they're still 6-2. Like, they haven't been winning games by a ton of points, but like they're still 6-2. And Wake Forest, same thing, 6-2. So like this could potentially play into ACC standings.
Definitely.
You know, I mean, I know Clemson's kind of felt like they've run away with things, but Clemson could lose this week and suddenly kind of go into a downspin or whatever. I mean, a lot of things can still happen. But yeah, I'm excited for that game. I think it's going to be a close game, and the spread shows that with just 3.5, 4, whatever it is right now.
Yep. Could be a good one. We'll just have to see. We've got a couple cold one classics that are going down before we move on to the NFL. We've got number 9 USC at home taking on Cal. And then we've got UCLA at Arizona State. Do we have any thoughts on those games?
I would expect that UCLA is just going to absolutely massacre ASU. But I
have
could
a
be
play
wrong
on that game. I have a play on that.
Okay. I like that. Once again, high total, you know, with these Pac-12, you know, after dark, 66.5 points in that one. Same thing with the Cal and USC game, 60.5 for the point total in that one. That one, I really want to believe Cal's defense can play, but USC just they're a machine. Nobody stops them. Yeah, you're right. They're a machine. We kept saying like they're so good on paper. Well, they're showing it in real life now too. So
right. Okay. Well, are there any other games you want to bring up on the CFB schedule before we jump into the NFL preview?
No, not necessarily. I feel like we hit on all the big ones.
We did. I'm proud of us. Great breakdown there. Before we move on to the NFL, I want to talk about our sponsor of the podcast. The Not Another CFB pod is sponsored by Coda Sportsbook. It's a South Dakota owned and operated sportsbook located in the Midnight Star Casino in Deadwood, South Dakota, serving customers in the state. As you enter the Midnight Star, you are swept into the past with the grand staircase, stunning woodwork, and the elegance of the chandelier. They offer the best lines in Deadwood, so stop by and mention the Coda Sports Gambling Network to receive a free Bet Coda t-shirt. Play responsibly, must be 21 years or older to wager. Gambling problems or concerns? Call 1-800-522-4700. All right, let's talk NFL right now. It's obviously going to be a great week every week in the NFL. There's always going to be close matchups. We're watching the Thursday night game right now. Eagles, Texans, 14-14 at the half. I've got the under and the underdog teaser. The underdog's looking great. The under potentially not so much. We'll see how it ends up. 14-14 right now. The undefeated Eagles on the ropes a little bit. Is there anywhere you want to start in the CFB slate?
Not necessarily. We can hit up some of these 1 o'clock games if we want. I know Lions and Packers, that'll be a divisional game if we want to start with that.
Got to. Let's talk about the Lions. Now, this is a game where it's at Detroit, but the Green Bay Packers are favored by 3.5 after losing a couple in a row. Over under a 49.5. Now, I do have a play on this, but I'm going to let Beast talk about his Lions or talk about this game in general first.
Yeah, no, I'm going to have a play on it too. So we'll have a couple different ones getting out there. That'll be good. But no, this is same thing I said kind of last week. Like when the Lions started off so hot against the Dolphins, they were up 14-0 to start that game. And of course they collapsed because that's just what they do. But for being a 1-6 team, like they seem to compete with a lot of the teams in the NFL. Like there's not many teams that are that like bad record wise that can actually keep up so much. And they do. And it would be the most Lions thing for them to do to come out this week and just beat the Packers because that makes no sense to anybody else. And it feels like the Packers on paper and entering the season had playoff hopes, like everything entering the year. I would not be shocked if the Lions won this game. I'm not going to take their spread or their money line. I have a different play on this game. But it wouldn't shock me. Like the Packers have not played good ball this year.
I'm crossing my fingers that we have the same play, but we'll see. Going to be an interesting one. We got Chargers at Falcons. Not much to say about that one. Dolphins at Bears, though, also in that time slot. I think it'd be interesting. Obviously, the Bears trading away a few of their key defensive pieces. I've got to play on this game. The Dolphins' offense is getting healthy at the right time, but could be an interesting matchup.
Yeah, and they just went and got Bradley Chubb, if I remember correctly, as well. So
the Dolphins.
Yeah. And I believe Chicago, obviously they went and got Claypool. So, I mean, interesting to kind of see how these trades shake out. But I think you're right. I think that Miami looked good last week. Even though they had their scare against the Lions, they came back and they really fought back. They looked really good in that game. But, hey, Chicago, sometimes Justin Fields gets on one. It'll be a fun game. I think it's going to be exactly what they said with the spread, like 3-4 points. I think it's going to be closer than we're expecting just because it's in Chicago too. So we'll see what happens.
Anything's possible in the NFL. You guys already know that. We got Panthers at Bengals. Not much to say about that one. Bit of an ugly game, but we'll see if the Bengals can get on track and kind of ramp this thing up towards playoffs. We got Colts at Patriots. Again, not the prettiest game. Two teams that are right around 500 going at it. Let's talk about Bills Jets though. Big time AFC East showdown going on. Bills 6-1, but they're 3-1 in the division. Interestingly, the Jets are 5-3. 3 of those losses have come at home. So all 3 of their losses at home, which is where this game's being played. Buffalo's 11.5 point favorites. Shout out to Meerkat. Shout out to all of the Buffalo Nation. Got any thoughts on that matchup right there?
No, that's a very interesting data point here. PG with the home losses. I did not know that.
I'm gonna be honest that ESPN just has that on the thing. So there you go.
Oh, all right. You know what? Hey, whatever. Hey, shout out ESPN, but I would say PG probably notified ESPN about that.
I probably did.
It. Yeah,
that's true. I probably did that.
They copied it off him. But no, I mean, as good as the Jets have been, I just think Buffalo's playing at a different level right now. I know Buffalo had their slip up with Miami like weeks ago. It feels like it was so long ago, but since then they've really been kind of blowing out everybody. Pittsburgh, I guess not necessarily blowing out, but they've had a couple wins that are 10 plus point wins. And in the NFL, that's kind of a blowout in a certain sense. They looked great last week against Green Bay. And I just think Buffalo probably rolls in this one. I think there's a reason that this is an 11.5 point spread. But hey, 11.5 point spreads in the NFL, it's never a guarantee, especially on the road. So
we'll see what happens. Points. Yep, we'll see what happens. We've also got the Vikings, Commanders, Raiders, and Jags in that time slot. Don't think we'll have much to say about those. I do have a play on the Commanders-Vikings game. Let's go into the 305 slot. We've got the Seahawks, Cardinals. That's a divisional matchup. Interesting spread with Arizona being favored by 2 points to the first place Seahawks. We've got Rams, Buccaneers, kind of a big league matchup. We saw this in the playoffs. These are playoff type teams, going into the year. I don't know what to think about that game, though. Matt Stafford's not been that great, but I know the Buccaneers are favored by 3 points. Do we have any thoughts?
I'm going to have a play on that game. So I'm
Let's
actually
go.
pretty excited about that game. That's going to be a good one. Like you said, just like matchup wise and,
Yes.
where these teams are at, both of them, 3-4, 3-5. It's going to be a real telltale of like how good these teams can be. And I got a good play. I think I actually have a pretty decent read on it. I'm hoping I'm right.
Huge. I think you might be. I did want to note just a programming note here. There's only 2 games in that 3:00 slot. We've got that Seahawks, Cardinals, Rams, Buccaneers. I don't know why the NFL does this, folks. I don't know. Even one more game would be a big deal in that slot. Let's talk about the Sunday night game, though, because I think it's a decent one. Titans at Chiefs. Everybody's kind of overlooking the Titans this year. They're 5-2, but nothing super impressive so far on their end, but this is a great spot for them to kind of shock the world and beat the Chiefs, so to speak, because the Chiefs are 12.5-point favorites.
Yeah, Titans have won 3 out of the last 4 against the Chiefs. For whatever reason, they match up so well with the Chiefs. 3 out of the last 4. And I want to say, so last year they had the game in October and they won 27-3. Like they just seem to play really well. And it makes no sense because like the Titans typically like they give you the same thing where it's like, Tannehill's okay. I know they're kind of rolling out Malik Willis and stuff now, but usually it's the same thing where it's just like Derrick Henry's just going to run the ball down your throat. But defensively, like they kind of brought it. Like they were good last year. Like, so that wasn't that shocking, but it always feels like, wait a minute, the Chiefs are way better than the Titans, but Titans always play well. I don't know why, but they just play well in that matchup. So it might actually be a better Sunday night game than we're expecting,
Yeah. Who knows? Titans are that playoff type team, and right now they're in first place in that division. Let's talk about the Monday night game. Ravens at 5-3 going to the Saints at 3-5. I don't know what to think, man. The Ravens have been on such a roller coaster. Now they did add some people late in the trade deadline. Saints kind of not doing much, although they did announce that Michael Thomas is out for the year with a toe injury, which that just hurts. That just hurts. Do we have any thoughts on the Monday night game?
Ravens looked great against Tampa Bay last week, but as we just mentioned, like we don't know how good Tampa Bay is. So that was one of those games that I felt like impressive that, the Ravens had to come back in that game too. Looked really good. I'm higher on the Ravens than I am the Saints, but the fact that this spread is just 2.5 makes no sense. It feels like the Ravens the way better team. Something's going on.
Antennas up.
Yeah, like maybe New Orleans is going to show up in prime time. Like I think everybody let's see what the percentages are. Yeah, I guess it's 50-50 right now, but I would be shocked if by Monday night we were seeing like a 50-50. I would expect everybody will hit the Ravens, betting wise. And then I think the money actually might probably end up leaning the Saints. If I had to guess, I have no idea. I wish I could see the future or else it'd be 10 times better, but I'm not.
Seems like you're kind of telling the future right now. But if you're ready, let's hop into the bets. What do you think?
Oh, I'm ready, man. I've been kind of like itching inside, it's always fun breaking down the games, obviously, too. But once we get into the bets, then like we're really, those are the games we're passionate about,
That's when it gets fun. Fun. So let's talk in the weeds. I'll let you kind of lead off here. In the weeds is just basically a play that not a lot of people are looking at. Maybe it's a bit of a stinker game, or it's one that's just lost in the weeds. I don't know. That's where the name comes from. Let's let Beast lead us off here.
Yeah, no, this is a play I really like this week. This is going to be James Madison University plus 7.5 at Louisville. Really not that in the weeds typically, and like in the future, I don't think it will be that in the weeds. But right now, this is their first year in the FBS with JMU, and at plus 7.5, I think that's a perfect line for us to kind of buy low on them. They've had some tough losses, but they have that underdog syndrome. They really do. Like they want to prove themselves in their first year. They were so good in the FCS. They really want to prove themselves now. Number 1 rushing defense in the country and rushing yards allowed, which was a stat that I had no idea.
Wow.
They really do play some pretty good defense, and they've only allowed over 20 points 2 times this year. So their defense is actually a lot better than they probably get credit for. They also have a top 20 offense in the country at number 19. I'm going to buy low with them because they've just lost 2 games in a row.
Yep.
Then they had a bye week. And that bye week, I think, was a great get-right spot. Louisville has been playing some really good ball, so it is scary. we're getting a full touchdown and then that half point.
Mm-hmm.
We always talk about getting maybe a garbage time touchdown. They could be down 10, kick a field goal, down 14, get a touchdown, and we still cover. So getting that hook, I like plus 7.5 a lot. I think everybody's a little too high on Louisville right now for that spread.
Yeah, I don't mind that play at all. I'm going to go to a play. I've got Southern Miss at home minus 2.5 taking on Georgia State. I like Frank Gore Jr. This team, it's really more about the defense, I would say, than anything. Now, if you look at the percentages on this, because we've kind of been talking percentages, 72% of people so far are on Southern Miss, but over 92% of the money is on Southern Miss. So you've got that good percentage there in your direction. Not much to say. I mean, USM, they've been pretty good at home. I mean, if you look at what they've done so far this year, the one thing they do is they just take care of the ball. They run a very boring offense. Part of their offense comes out of the Wildcat, and that's why you'll see Frank Gore Jr. He'll probably have a touchdown pass this week because they'll run some play where it looks like a run up the middle, and he just pops up and throws it to somebody wide open in the slot, and they score a touchdown. They thrive off that big play. I'm going to go Southern Miss minus 2.5 for my in the weeds play.
I like that. We're getting some good bloodlines in that bet right there. We're getting that Frank Gore bloodline.
Yeah, man. We got the pedigree here. Let's move on to our best bets. I'm going to let our guy Beast go first, and then we'll just kind of alternate from there, my man.
All right. We're going to start off with a game that's probably going to be actually a little bit of an underrated game because there's so many good games on the slate. And that's going to be Florida plus 3.5 at Texas A&M. I just got to ask, what are we doing here? Why is Florida plus 3.5 here? Texas A&M has lost 4 straight games. Mm-hmm. Their rushing defense ranks number 125 out of 131 FBS teams. Mm-hmm. They can't stop the run. Meanwhile, Florida has 3 guys on their team that average over 6 yards per carry, including their quarterback, Anthony Richardson. Maybe I'm a sucker, but what are we doing here? Why are they underdogs? I know it's tough to travel to Kyle Field and everything, but dude, I'm going to take 3.5 points, 4 points. Even if it was 3, I would take it, but I'm going to take the 3.5 with the hook all day. Texas A&M's not good. I'm sorry, but I know Florida's had some tough losses. They're 4-4 themselves, but matchup wise, I'm going to take that rushing offense against a awful Texas A&M rushing defense all day, baby. So we're going to take plus 3.5 for that one.
I like it. Let's go. I'm obviously way down for A&M losing again. That would make me pretty happy. Let's talk about my game. I'm calling it a cold one classic Friday night. Oregon State Beavers at Washington Huskies. We're going to have some rainy weather in Seattle, and that's why I'm taking the Oregon State Beavers and their rushing attack plus 4.5 at Washington. I think Oregon State's being a little undervalued here. Washington's obviously, their offense has still got it going on. They're still averaging 40 points a game, 507 yards total, but 380 of that yardage is passing. And when it's raining and the ball's wet, that number's going to dip. Oregon State, however, they're consistent. They're on the ground, averaging almost 200 yards rushing per game. They're getting 4.5 here. That's a good football number. I think they could win this game straight up, but even if they just keep it close, that's a great number for us. Back doors open, all kinds of things. Oregon State Beavers plus 4.5 in Seattle, rainy day.
I like that one a lot. Once again, we're kind of getting into that. We like getting that hook, that half point, whatever. So perfect. I'm going to dive into, a pretty decent game when I look at it, but maybe I'm a sicko here. We're going to go to BYU and Boise State. We're going to take under 54.5 in this game. I got to say, I think this Boise State defense is a bit underrated. They probably don't get the credit they deserve. They're number 13 in the country in points per game allowed. I think they kind of just slowly dominate this game where BYU entering the year, and even when I said it, I thought they were going to be good. I don't think their offense is as good as I expect they were going to be. I think Boise State's defense just dominates in this game, kind of pushes them into irrelevance. And frankly, as much as I talked up BYU, dude, BYU sucks more than Riley Reid when she sees her stepbrother. I got to be honest right now. That's how bad they suck right now. They have fallen off so bad, dude. And, Boise State's probably going to roll in this game. They're not expected to, probably roll in this game entering the year. But I want to say it's a 10-point spread close to that right now. So I think they roll in this game. under 54.5 is the better bet just because I think this is like a 27-17 type game. So we're going to take under 54.5 in BYU Boise State. Let's go Boise State.
Absolutely, man. Let's go. I wasn't ready for the one-liner, but here we are. I'm going to go to a respectful play here. This is us backing the troops. Bam. We're going Air Force, Army, under 40.5. I love this number. We know how good these armed forces unders have been. I mean, it got an 82% win rate right now. If you're just looking at it from that standpoint, it's 40.5 too. This isn't like one of our little 35-point spreads or whatever that we got to take during Army, Michigan, or Army, Navy, rather. I don't know what made me say Michigan, but I love this under. Both teams, they run the triple option, so that clock's running all the time. But the defenses face triple option every single day. They know how to stop it. This game's going to end like 13-7, and we're just going to cash the crap out of this under. It's also the first game of the slate, 10:30 a.m. Arlington, Texas. For some reason, there's going to be like 40 people there. Under all day. Respect the troops.
I like it. When we get Service Academy unders, they seem to always be a lock. You know what I mean? So
80% win rate, like I said.
It's
pretty
great.
darn good.
It really is. So we're going to move away from the Service Academy for a minute here, and we're going to go to one of our top 10 matchups. I said I had a play on it. We're going to take Bama minus 13.5 at LSU. I think some books even have 13, but we're going to do 13.5 because I feel that confident in this play. This is such a perfect spot to sell on LSU. They're finally in the top 10. Like, they had to kind of revive themselves all year. Brian Kelly finally has his team looking like a quality team entering the Bama game. It sets up for this top 10 matchup. Well, it's going to come all crashing down because that's what happens when you go against Nick Saban. I think this is the perfect spot where, like, Brian Kelly has everybody finally believing in him again, and then he shows you that, nope, he's not the same coach Nick Saban is. I think Alabama also at number 6 in the CFP rankings has to kind of go into this game like, you know what? Top 10 matchup, we're going to assert ourselves. And I think they're going to try to put a lot of points up on LSU if they can. I wouldn't be shocked if they won this game by 20, 25, 30. Like, I think Nick Saban is going to have no remorse and just light them up here. I think minus 13.5 is a perfect spot to sell on LSU. And also probably like a buy low spot on Alabama. I've been saying it for weeks. One of these weeks, Nick Saban's going to get it going. And, like, they looked great last week. So I think great spot. I think they for sure win this one by 14.
I love that one. I was on it in the College Football Central show.
Yep. I
will be tailing you there at least for half a unit. Probably just go all in because I love Nick Saban in this spot. I'm going to go to another top 10 matchup, though. I'm going with the Tennessee Vols plus the 8.5 against the Georgia Bulldogs. This is in Athens, but there are a couple key players for Georgia that's out in this one. I just love Tennessee, though. Y'all know I love Hendon Hooker, Jalen Hyatt, what this offense has been doing. It's an offense that Georgia just hasn't seen yet this year. Now, Georgia's defense is incredible. I would say probably the best defense in the country, but there's only so much you can do in college against these offenses. It's just they're built different. I would say the next best offense they faced is Oregon, but that was in week 1. Oregon was not going at all in that one. Had never had a chance. We got to remember teams like Kent State scored 22, Missouri scored 22. I like Tennessee's opportunity to score some points here. And if they get ahead and Georgia kind of has to play from behind and not play the way they want to play, which is run the ball, control the clock, play defensive football, they're in trouble. They're in trouble. I like Stetson Bennett, but I don't like them enough to have them trying to come back against the Tennessee Vols. Also, the back door is wide open with a number like this, just like Beast talked about. Tennessee can score like that, and if they can score quick, they can hit the back door as well. I think they got a chance to win this game straight up, though.
No, it's a good point. I think you're right. When you're getting that hook, that's the big difference here is even if Georgia did win, and like establish themselves as like, hey, you know, we didn't get our number 1 and like we really want to be number 1. I still think that you're right. I think it would be like a 7-point win and they could win by 3, 4, 6, 7, 8 if they really wanted. And you're still getting that hook. Mm-hmm. You're still going to cover. Like they could be down 10 late, kick a field goal to try to make it a 1-score game. And, you know, we'll see what happens. That's going to be a fun game. Obviously, we're going to be locked in. top 2 games of the week, we got plays on, really, when you look at that.
Love it. Love it.
You know, our only top 10 matchups, we got 2 plays. So you guys got to be locked in there. So we're going to move to the NFL here for my next play. I believe PG has a play on this one as well.
Huge.
We're going to go to the Packers-Lions game. And I said, I don't want to touch the Lions spread. I don't want to touch their over or anything. Or I am going to touch the over. I should say I didn't want to touch the money line. We're going to take over 49.5 in Packers and Lions. We love Lions overs. Like hashtag Lions overs. That's the move. It has been all year. I haven't really gotten in on any. Like PG's been cashing them all year. We kind of talked about it a lot in the preseason, but I always kind of just had other stuff going on as far as plays. So, but we're getting in on it now. And I think this is a perfect spot because we know how bad this Lions defense is, man. Like they are a flaming bag of dog shit. They are so bad. Dude, you could take the local 6th graders and line them up against the Lions like defense. And you would hang 30 on that defense. Like, that's just the truth. It's disgusting. But the Lions offense, on the other hand, has been putting up points like every single week. And just like we saw last week, I feel like this is one of those games where the Lions offense puts up some points. We see this total fly way over 50 points. Packers should have no issues. Aaron Rodgers loves playing against the Lions. He loves putting up points on them. I know the Packers have had some issues on offense with no receivers and stuff, but the Lions defense is not good. So Aaron Rodgers will be fine. Like they'll be able to put up points. Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon, they're going to be moving the ball plenty on the Lions. And I think the Lions offense is going to keep up to a certain point. Wouldn't be shocked if they won, but 49.5 points actually feels way too low for me, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, no, I liked this too. I guess I didn't officially put it down as one of my plays, but it was definitely the way I was leaning, and I'll definitely be tailing. So yeah, Lions overs, man. They've been a lot of fun. I'm gonna go to my next play, which is still in college, but I love Oklahoma State this weekend. This line has gone crazy because I assume Spencer Sanders is confirmed out for this one. Oklahoma State is all the way up to +1 right now against the Kansas Jayhawks, but I'm going with them. Oklahoma State has a much better roster. Now, this is Kansas coming off of a bye. They've had a time to get a little bit healthier, but they still don't have their starting quarterback in. I just think Oklahoma State's better roster up and down. I think they could go into this game if it's Gunnar Gundy at quarterback and just run the ball and be just fine here on the road at Kansas. They've been a great story, Kansas has. They just don't have the dogs that Oklahoma State has. Kansas is suffering some injuries at this point too. We'll see how many they have back after the bye. This is too good of a line for me to pass up, though. I think Oklahoma State is better than what they showed last week. They're going to be fired up to try and save their season, which they still can do. So I'm going to go Oklahoma State in a pick 'em / +1, wherever you can get them at is good. I'm just on the money line. It's basically even money. So here we go.
I like it a lot. And you guys know if PG's giving out Oklahoma State on a bet, it's a good bet. Good. Because, for him to put any faith in the Cowboys here, he's got to have some faith. So that's a good play. I like that a lot. I think you're right. Matchup wise, they're a much more talented team. So I'm going to go to my next NFL play here. I got Colts +5.5 on the road against the Patriots. No disrespect to the New England fans. I just think the Colts at +5.5, that's a ton of points. Everybody kind of bought in really early on Sam Ehlinger last week. And I feel like they bought in a little bit too early because I think he needed to get the first game jitters out of the way. Colts are still a pretty decent team. I think that they actually kind of bounce back this week. I think Ehlinger looks better this week. I think no chance that the Patriots, in my opinion, are 5.5 points better than the Colts when I really look at rosters and everything. And I mean, it's fair to say that 2 weeks ago, they got mollywopped by Justin Fields. So I don't know why they would be 5.5 point favorites. I know they're at home, but I just feel like the Colts actually still have a pretty solid team. They shouldn't be 5.5 point underdogs in this game. Everybody's probably low on Sam Ehlinger right now, but he's going to bounce back this week. I got faith in him. I think he just needed to get that 1 week out of the way.
Yeah.
But if he sucks, then I'm going to just absolutely blame him for all of my losses this week, even though he has nothing to do with any of my other bets.
I love it, man. Yeah, we'll see. I've got one last college play before we jump in to my last play, which is in the pros. Let's go UCLA, Arizona State, over 66. Now, this number is climbing as we're speaking. It's 66.5, 67 in some places, but I love this over. We know what DTR and this UCLA offense can do. what I think probably happens in this one is UCLA gets off to a huge lead and that defense lets up a little bit. Arizona State's not the worst team ever. They can score some points. They scored 42 against Colorado last week. They can score a little bit, especially if that defense from UCLA is kind of let up. It's a late night game in Arizona, as I said. So I'm going to go with this over, but as soon as you listen to this, lock it in because this number just keeps getting higher and higher. Lock it in for it gets in the 70s, but I love it.
I like that a lot. We said that was kind of a cold one classic.
Definitely.
Glad we have a bet on that one for sure. So my last best bet that we're going to have is going to be Bucks -3 at home versus the Rams. You said it, man. Stafford has lost his swagger. Like last year, we saw Stafford really peaking in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. He lost that swagger. He's number 2 in the NFL right now in interceptions, and the only guy that's in front of him is Matt Ryan, who didn't even play last week. So, like, to be honest, like, Matt Ryan's not really the guy that you should think, oh man, it's really great, but I'm behind him. The Bucs haven't been outstanding this year, but they're going to have home field advantage in this game. They actually didn't play that bad against the Ravens last week. I thought the Ravens are probably just a better team on, overall. But that was not a bad loss. They lost 27-22. Like, it wasn't that bad. The Bucs defense has still played pretty good. They're going to put pressure on Stafford. And once again, I just don't think Stafford's right now. I think he kind of came into the season with his elbow issue. He probably is just getting a little bit up there in age. I know that's, something I don't want to say as he's a former Lion, but he just isn't the same quarterback that we're probably used to. They're going to make him a little bit anxious in the pocket when they're putting that pressure on him. I think Brady gets his guys kind of fired up going forward. You're looking at the Saints, not really a good record right now. The Falcons are probably your leader in that division right now. Brady has to get these guys fired up, make a late season push, win the division. I think they're going to be really fired up for this game at home. Bucks -3 at home versus the Rams. I just think the Rams, man, they just don't look right. They don't.
Yeah. I totally agree, man. There's something stinky going on in LA. So we'll see. I'm going to go to my last play, which is an NFL play. I'm going Dolphins Bears over 45.5. This number is just too low. As we know, the Bears traded away a couple key defenders, and I think Bradley Chubb, who was picked up by the Miami Dolphins, he's not going to be in enough plays yet, I would think, to make a big difference in this game. Just too much offensive talent. Seems like Justin Fields has gotten comfortable. He's going to be back at home. Obviously, Tua and this offense is getting healthy as well for the Miami Dolphins. I don't know how much Claypool will play for the Bears, but they did a good job, last week against the Cowboys. They scored 29 points. That's going to be plenty to hit this over because it's not even a high over, 45.5. It's a little breezy in Chicago on Sunday, but I don't think it's too bad just yet. Still 52 degrees. The sun's going to be out. We believe in this over 45.5, Chicago and Miami.
I like it a lot, man. I really do.
Huge. All right, we're going to go into our money line dogs before we talk about the pod parlay. Very simple. We're taking a dog on the money line. Let's start with Beast Picks. Where are we going?
All right. I got to tell you, PG, there's 3 things I love. 1, we love these Service Academy games. 2, we love Bud Heavies. And 3, we're loving taking an underdog in a Service Academy game. We're going to take Army plus 230 over Air Force. This is going to be a neutral site game, which is something I guess I didn't acknowledge, entering, the game. But they've won 4 of the last 5, Army has. These Service Academy games, they get weird. They just are always very low scoring, as you already touched on. They get very weird. They're very wonky. These guys kind of fire up because it's like Army versus the Air Force. Same thing happens when Navy's in it. It's like it's our Service Academy, like our branch of the military versus yours. I'm expecting this game to be a lot closer than what the spread is. It's a +7 right now, +7.5. So it's going to be plus 230. So I'm going big on my money line dog this week. But this is one of those games that I'm like, listen, you guys can tell me this is a 7-point spread. You can tell me 7.5, whatever you guys want to look at based on past results. But no. I think this game is a way closer game than everybody else is expecting. You guys don't feel confident taking the plus 230, which you should. You should feel very confident. But if you don't, take the +7, +7.5. But I'm expecting this to be a very close game, right down to the finish. And we're going to take a plus 230 dog in a game that I expect should have been like a pick 'em in my opinion, at least, just because these service academy games are very weird,
Yes, definitely weird games. Here's the other thing that you didn't mention there. So this would be an 11:30 game for Army, excuse me, because they're on the East Coast there. But if you remember where Air Force plays is in Mountain Time, so it's actually 9:30 a.m. for them. Big time #body clock game. So I like that side of it. I may have to sprinkle it, even though I've got the under in that one as well.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to my moneyline dog, which is the Washington Commanders. That's right. We're back again. I like Heineke here. He's a dog. This is Kirk Cousins returning to Washington, D.C. Interested to see how this defense kind of turns up when he's in town. Quietly, the Commanders have won 3 games in a row. Now, they're not against the most insane competition. The Vikings have obviously had a great start to the season, but I think if there's any spot for them to slip up a little bit, it's in this random spot, kind of a sleepy spot against a 4-4 Commanders team that seems kind of whatever. I just think they're playing good ball right now. The defense isn't fully healthy, but it's playing good enough. If you can sack Kirk Cousins a few times, he might cough that ball up, give you the ball in great field position. Maybe you can score on this great Vikings defense. So like the Washington Commanders plus 145 to take it home.
If we could get 3 straight winners on the money line dog with the Commanders, we're gonna have to be a Commanders podcast.
I know,
because we really haven't been this. We've been it in our picks, but like we haven't been. Every time we go in, we're like, well, the Commanders aren't that good, but I think they're good enough, and they keep winning. Like, give them a little bit of respect. We say like the NFC Beast, but they're probably the worst team in that division. They're still kind of winning games, so I got to give these guys credit, man.
Yeah, absolutely. We're back on them, and I want to believe. That's all I got to say. Let's get into the pod parlay. We're going to take 2 of our best bets from this week and throw them in a parlay. I'll let our guy Beast kind of lead us off here.
I think we have to go with the game that's going to be a very watched game this week, and we're going to take Bama minus 13.5 at LSU. So you guys know I really like this play if I'm going to put it in the pod parlay. And it really is. Like, it's going to be a great game to watch, but I think Bama absolutely rolls in this game. It's not necessarily that I think LSU is bad. I just think Brian Kelly has a really notorious history of us finally buying in on his Notre Dame teams and then them collapsing against a very good opponent like an Alabama team. And Bama minus 13.5 just feels very good to me. I feel like 14, 17, 21. I'm serious. I think Alabama asserts themselves in this game. I think they want to run the score up. Even if they're up 14, if you guys are starting to get nervous, I think Saban's going to be like, nope, boys, we got to win by like 21, 27. Like, they're going to try to run it up because they're kind of playing catch up just because of that loss to Tennessee. So minus 13.5 to me, I don't care if it's on the road in Death Valley. Like, Death Valley does not scare me. Like, Saban is kind of immune to these spots, in my opinion. Like,
yes, and this is something that they've drilled specifically because that was one of his big things that he was upset about when they lost to Tennessee was that they thought the crowd affect the game a little too much. So they've been practicing that. They've had a bye week here. People are forgetting they didn't play last week. They got to sit there and watch film while LSU beat themselves up. I like this. I'm going to the Service Academy under, though. I'm going Air Force Army under 40.5. Love this here. I think it's just too many points for a Service Academy game. That game starts at 10:30 a.m. Beast game starts at 6. So this kind of strings your whole Saturday along on the pod parlay. Very excited. Very excited. It's going to be a great weekend of sports. It was a great pod too. You got anything to say before we sign out, Beast?
Make sure to follow us, guys. Follow all the cappers in the network, too. We're all putting out winners, throughout the week because we got the action going on now. Beast Prop. PG's been lighting it up on NHL, NCAA. We got these Thursday night NFL. Like, there's just so much going on. Like, make sure to follow everybody at the network. Share our podcast with everybody you guys got because, listen, the more times you guys share it, like, the better we're doing. We've been winning you guys some money, so, like, I would say, like, you should kind of shout us out. Like,
it helps us out a ton, and it's been really fun. Beast and I have been putting in the work, but I think we're having a blast doing it. We appreciate all you guys out there that's listening. We will catch you Tuesday morning on the recap show. Can't wait to see what kind of weekend we have. Let's all have a great one. See you next time. Peace.
Peace out.